Making it worse is easy too. First of all, let's clarify the terms and what's the usability thing we so speak of. Usability basically means it's how easy something is to use. The act of doing usability is just to create and make things that we as people can learn and understand. And things people enjoy, things that are pleasant to use. Because they're meant for us people. They must be built so primarily we understand them and are efficient with them and don't make fatal errors. Because we do make errors. We're human after all. But a usable thing needs to take human qualities into account. And you need to take other people into account, people besides yourself. Because every unusable product has one person who finds it perfectly usable, and that's usually the person who made it. Usability is not forcing people to behave in a particular way. It's making your product behave for people. And that's important. Usable things serve us, not the other way around. That means when you have trouble with an application, maybe it's giving you a hard time, it's the application that is at fault, not you. That is important, because products are for people, and the usable and an unusable thing is failing at its job. But usability from an applied point of view is there's no black magic. It's a set of principles and guidelines that you can follow, maybe with a hint of common sense. So we've got usability is clear, and what's unusability? And why exactly low-hanging fruit for programmers? Well, we as programmers, we work for someone, maybe for a client or a boss. And those people have ideas and requests that they expect us to fill and to implement. They usually come to you with a fairly finished idea or design and simply want you to implement it. Sometimes there's a graphic designer involved, but regardless of that, all of those requests converge at your desk. So you have to slice and dice something up and put it up, and you're not expected to pitch in much at that point. Now the truth is that actually it would be a bit too late to start thinking large usability redesigns at that point. If the premise and the core of the idea they came to you with is absolutely unusable, maybe the interaction was thought out badly, there's not much you can do at the end of the food chain. You can't reverse that core unusability or go back to the drawing board without them noticing or redoing a lot of work. But it's not doom and gloom that much. There are things you can actually do at the end of the food chain. First, you can make everything worse. That's always possible. But better not make it worse. You might make it better. You can make it better. And those little bits that you can make better will make it a lot better for the people using the product in the end. So I'm going to give you some low-hanging fruit, some interesting bits that you can look out for and take home tonight and take with you to work tomorrow that help with this thing. But we won't go into too many generalities today. You'll have plenty of time to work those out and read about those after we've gotten a few wins. So we can be agile tonight. Yeah. First of all, let's make one thing clear. What's understandable to you might not be understandable to others. For example, there's a login box of an Estonian bank. It's a real conundrum for pensioner business owners. Which version do you choose? If you're 59 years old, do you choose the old one? Or are you worthy of the middle one? We're going to look at some more examples of text and wording and terminology, because text is really important. There's a lot of text in places design didn't pay much attention to. And sometimes you need to add your own messages, maybe errors and statements and whatever that the design didn't have. Text is something you can make a lot better, because what you write initially, even those placeholders that you write, are quite likely to remain through to the end of the product. Yeah, sometimes clients and people, marketing people come to you and say, yeah, we've thought about these product texts and advertising texts, but most often they're perfectly happy with whatever you choose to put on the buttons and maybe the error messages and so on. So it is in your hands to make those buttons and terms and labels as clear as you can. And also don't count on people fixing them after you. They'll probably use the same terms. Maybe they will run it through spell check or translate it out of context quite often. So it's important to get this stuff right, otherwise no one else will. Now this is a perfect example of what you need to look at. Those, for example, those labels there, those called member ID and password, and then there's an error message up there that says the username and password, right? Such differences, wherever they occur, they make it harder for people to learn the interface and to understand the interface. People will make errors, or they will have to spend time and attention and to understand, did they misunderstand something, or are these two things really the same? So keep that in mind when writing error messages and so on. Always use the same word. Whichever word you choose, that's okay actually. Just make sure it's the same word each time. There's another example actually of many to one. That means that's quite a common example. The menu heading says search, but each option says find. Are these things the same? Actually, if you remember back to school, people, the way you were taught to write, that don't use the same word like 10 times in 10 consecutive sentences. It's actually the same exact opposite here. If you find a word, take one word and go with it, even if it's boring to you. That makes it easily scannable and understandable, so people don't have to read each of those words. They can just scan it. There's the previous example. Here we've got one similar word called search. And find, actually two similar words, but they mean totally different things. They have different features behind them. For example, in the find menu, the mailbox search option, I'm presuming that allows you to search for or find email messages inside an email box. The other one that's find, is a synonym for search actually, lets you search or find stuff inside one email message. Don't do that. Make it clear. Make it clear with either find an email or find inside this email or whatever. Don't force people to think about the small nuance between those two different words. So use different words for different things and same words, and one word for the same thing. And text is really important. The ironic part of graphical user interfaces is that there's a lot of text, actually. So all those labels and buttons and messages and statements and so on, those are all text. Text in a user interface is important, and you can help tremendously if you keep an eye on what you write. You're actually given opportunity to help with the quality of the product if you look out for what you write, because the tiny things, the tiny wording and labeling and so on, are so often overlooked, yet they affect the usability of a system or a product very, very much. So yeah, what you write in these places is really important. People might say, we'll redo those texts later on, but a lot of that will remain, collecting dust and annoying users forever. So basically, when you write, make sure it's clear and understandable. Use concepts and things that are familiar to people. Do that writing with simple and short words and simple and short sentences. Don't use computer jargon. And when you choose a word or for a feature and thing, be consistent and use that word everywhere. Even if you yourself are tired of that word, use it anyway. It's important. So no surprise, these principles are quite similar to principles of good computer programming. It's optimized for readability and understandability over being clever. And by the way, yes, you can have too few words on a dialog box. This is not good copywriting on a dialog box. Apparently that came from an Intel's driver installation. Moving on. Well, occasionally you want to get some information from people. And those tiny interactions also affect very much how people perceive your application, how satisfied they are with it. So the usability and unusability of controls and buttons, and that's another thing you have an effect on, and actually often more than you can think of. So there's here some opportunities there to make your product more humane. Now this is an Estonian internet bank, another one this time. So on the top it says start date is not a date. So so basically what I was trying to do, I was trying to get a statement of the movements, and I actually even entered the starting date in the form that they requested. So I was already doing work for the computer, use periods, but apparently I was too chilled out for them, as I forgot zeros. So they're again forcing us to do work for computers. I mean, come on, remember, products are for people. That's actually the same case that happened to me with my tax returns. So after I filled in my mobile, with the country code, as we're used to on the internet, I was greeted with a message that you must enter your code without spaces and without whatever words.
Is this your real number?
Yeah, you can call it. No, I've got it on vibrate. So, yeah, basically, interfaces are not a place to exercise zero tolerance policies. Humans are not machines. Let people enter like numbers and dates and in whatever format they want. You can use your coding skills to deduce what they want. You'll probably get it right so many times that and save so many errors that we're all better off with it. So now, one thing is what you allow people to enter to the dialog box, and the other thing is what you put into that dialog box before they write anything. The business registry did one thing well. They pre-filled the start and end date of my fiscal year, and that's good. You want to do that. Provide sensible defaults, so computer does more work, person does less work, and that's good. You want to do that. What is not so good is those defaults have to be sensible and be correct. So the start and end date were filled with the 1st of January and the last of December, which would be okay, but this company was started a few months after first year. So simply pressing next, it would give you an error saying that the start of the year is earlier than the founding year of the company, for example. And that's not good. So apparently they know what the error is. Why not just fix it for me or for people? They already know perfectly well that one date has to be after the other date. Do it for people. And speaking of, let's take a look at this. I was trying to get my bank statement the other day, and take note that the interface is in Estonian, but the error message is the interface is in English. The error message is in Estonian. Who knows? Well, anyway, I was trying to get my statement, but it seems I chose a too long range. What is a long range of dates? What's a shorter one? Now, it's the funny thing that if you do these two requests manually, they'll work. You can do, I don't know, a year at a time manually, and then just paste them to Excel or whatever. You can actually do it manually, so there's no technical reason. But yeah, we as programmers, we can guess that maybe it takes too much memory if the person you're looking is a compulsive shopper and has thousands of items. Or maybe the system architect, no one maybe questioned the system architect's decision to add a limit. Those things are quite often common. But you're a clever programmer. You can do that work for me or for people. You can make it work with larger date ranges and not raise the question of limits at all. And if you need, by all means, you can do those two requests to the database behind me. I don't care, and just present one list. That's totally okay. You can do whatever magic you want, as long as people do less work and machines do more work. Speaking of getting systems to do work for you, here's an annoying example. Here's an example we all have to deal with every day. These things are, by the way, to stop spammers.
Let's organize anti-capture party.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, we should. The funny thing actually is it's the same thing that we as people have to do work to stop spammers, not the machines. The spammers actually probably have automated these things, or they've got cheap third world labor to do it for them. It's only the honest people that have to do the work. It's basically like stopping internet piracy. The pirates always win, and the only people getting hurt are the honest people.
No, you can do recapture.
Yeah, that's getting worse and worse every day. Basically. But yeah, anyway, there's an internet provider's forum that really likes pop quizzes. It's of the same example. First they ask you of the capital of Tallinn, and then they give you a little letter recognition game. This is double the amount of work a machine I have to do. And all of that work could be done by the product. And here's more. These are password requirements. I think enough said.
I'm insane Windows administrator.
Apparently. But anyway, if you're a security programmer, don't argue for security measures that look at security through the eyes of the system. Remember, people are people. People have bad memories. They have work to do. They care more about their work, and people never let security stop their work. And did I say people have bad memories? Well, they do. Those tiny interactions are important. So when you're programming inputs and controls and stuff, make sure they're tolerant. Don't expect people to be as pedantic as computers are. People aren't. Do a bit of cheap pre-processing, remove some invalid characters and whatnot, whatever. Unify numbers, dates, who cares? Products and people and products get along much better, much nicer. If you want to ask something from people, always do a lot of work before that. Do as much work as you can. Provide sane defaults. Then people don't have to waste time and effort to do work that could be done by the computer. And don't put arbitrary limitations, because there's always too little. For example, if you think no name has weird symbols, think again. Or if you think no name is longer than 32 characters, well, a quick Google says that the longest name has 26 first names, and the last name is hell of a long. It's 212 characters in total. So think again. Any limit is too little. And most importantly, do work for your users, or for people. So even though clients and bosses, and they get to decide the big questions, and may come to you with a great idea for a feature or a thing, maybe a thing you can't do anything about. But there are still so many places where you can do something to improve the usability of the whole system by paying attention, and especially not making it worse. So basically we've touched just the tip of the iceberg. But there is stuff you can do at the end of the food chain that makes an impact. So I'm going to leave you with this one link. Go read it. It has hundreds of short length writings on various aspects of usability. Very, very interesting, very short reading, quick reading. And it's very good for passing on to someone if you want to defend your usable argument, if you may aim to make a larger change in your organization or place. So with having said that, that's it. Thank you. If there are any questions or answers, I'm sure we've got a few minutes.
One question,
Sure.
if I try to connect the previous presentation with yours, what's the business impact of bad usability?
Or bad usability. It's basically very similar to being an obnoxious person. if you are an obnoxious person, if there is someone obnoxious person, an annoying person, and if he has something of very much value to others, some people might be nice to him or might go to him even though he is obnoxious and disgusting and whatever. But the moment someone better comes along, someone who is more nicer, those people, they have no loyalty towards the obnoxious people or the obnoxious person. They will go to the people that are nicer to them, that are more usable, to the products that are more usable. So there's a real business impact of bad usability. On the loyalty would be the first one of those things. There's a lot of it boils down to loyalty. On the internet, it's very easy. A lot of people are very unloyal just because there's a better alternative right around the corner. So if some people have trouble shopping at your e-commerce site, the moment it gets too confusing, they will leave and they'll go to another e-commerce site.
So we cannot measure it.
Usability?
Yeah.
Yes.
Impact of bad usability.
You can basically use, you can measure anything. You can, I'm guessing you can do a pre and post measurements. You can measure your today's, say revenue or whatever, or sales, or the number of visitors, or the number of people going through your funnel. Maybe you want to count sign-ups. You can change something. You can test. Do more people purchase now, or do less people? You can make it worse intentionally. You can hide links. Maybe, does that make it worse? Make it better? You can measure those things. There are a lot of tools for that. I can give you a few links afterwards.
No.
Hey, you've got a question back there.
What I want to say is, for measuring, you can use split testing.
Yeah, that is A/B testing. It's basically what you do two versions of the same thing, and then you direct half of the people to one version and the other to the other version and test it out and see who wins. Yeah.
What's your opinion about replacing some button text with icons, for example? What do you think about that? Your personal opinion.
My personal opinion has been clouded by the data. Icons usually make it better. Just it's more visual data it's easier for the people to recognize that button amongst other buttons. The thing you must look out for is definitely do not forego text in favor of images. Those always make it worse. So buttons text and icons together, great. If you can't, just text, good enough.
What do you think about Google Chrome losing the plus icon?
I saw that article, yeah. So that was basically the Google Chrome browser has a button where you add new tabs, and the latest version removed the plus sign on it. So that for those who don't use it, So we can deduce that that it kind of expects that all people using the Chrome browser know that you can create new tabs with a button next to the top tab, and I sincerely doubt that is the case. I believe a lot of people don't know that you can add tabs with a button, especially. So that was probably not a good decision to do.
If you don't know that, and it's just a plus, doesn't make any sense either.
I would be guessing that a plus would be better than no plus. But we can test it out probably.
But then they name the same thing, like two different things with the plus. They have this Google Plus and they have plus on.
Now that's a good point.
Google is so much integrated nowadays, so you can expect that the plus sign there might be confuse people into that this is actually Google Plus, not the.
That is probably true, but there's a funny statement of some from usability professionals stating that all people spend more time on other websites than yours. So it's probably those people spend more time using other programs and other sites than using the Chrome browser and the Google Plus thing. So that basically means that Google may have good intentions and of not confusing people with two pluses, but as everybody else, your applications probably still will be using regular plus signs to indicate add buttons. So it's kind of a hard fight for them trying to change the whole internet maybe doing, I don't know what's the synonym for plus, maybe.
Designers are to blame.
Maybe we're all designers, so we're all to blame. Yeah.
I have a question. Who is responsible for the best user practice in the end? Is it designer or programmer?
Yeah, I would be willing to say everyone working in that corporation. Even the cleaning lady. I don't know. You're kind of responsible if you commit a crime together. You're all responsible. But I believe you can all pitch in. You can all say something. You can all nudge someone. You can demand better. I don't know. Better, more power of design and so on. And do you want to add something?
Yeah, I want to add. Actually, the thing is, young interaction designers quite often say that I'm an interaction designer. I'm the designer. I know the best. Shut up. And that's a completely wrong way because actually lots of programmers have more ideas how to make small things so much better and how it can be done in a certain framework. So if your designer says that I'm the designer, shut up, then don't believe. Start questioning, start arguing, because before the designer can actually say that, they have to collect some bonuses before.
So yeah, space. Yeah, so just I think that nicely adds to you should all pitch in and you're all kind of responsible for it, and so don't take anyone's word just for authority. Find out the reason behind some design decision that you've got in your product and so on. You're all responsible. You're all designers. Whether you like it or whether you know it or not, you're still designing something. Any more answers or questions?
Yeah, I have one answer.
Yeah, awesome.
Actually, I have a question. We're still here, at least I hope so, mostly Estonians. So let's discuss some Estonian part of the internet. And can you bring some, you gave us examples of bad web, but let's talk maybe a bit about good web. And what is for you the best Estonian site from usability point of view, which you use with respect or something like this? Because you can argue on every little stuff that is done not in the best way, but sometimes you just want to enjoy the web. Is there some site for doing it?
That might be a double-sided question in a sense that the best usability things or the most well-made products or websites or apps or whatever, those are the things you don't usually recognize. You don't notice that it's done very well. Sometimes you do, but most often you just go along, you do your task, you complete your goal, and you don't necessarily notice at each step, hey, this was as I expected. This was as I expected. Usually, and that's actually a good thing, that if there's no friction and if there's no stopping and no second guessing and no problems, that's a very good sign that your website or application works as people expect it to. That's partly the reason we might not be able to answer the question of our best website, because the moment we use it, we forget it. It was great. We go back the next time maybe automatically for trying to look up something I can't. Something. Maybe you've got a website in your mind that you. Oh, this is the best one.
I will tell that, but the thing is that usability could be always better for someone. So there's no maximum usability of anything actually. So sometimes designers fight for a maximum, but it cannot be done anyways. But I know the website I
have one small market. Currently, it's a good point for promoting your site, so should.
The thing is, I had to evaluate the website, and I didn't found in this time. I didn't found any errors, and it was rosta.de actually.
Lost?
Rosta.
Oh, Rosta.
So I
It
didn't
was
want-
empty.
It was great in a sense of usability. Code was okay. It was funny because I tried really hard. It's my job to try.
Well, that was a nice point. The websites we made or made fun of or brought out as examples, those are not all bad. They're very well designed and very well effort was put into it. I use these examples just for showing that even your best website, you can improve a lot of those things.
So you're not proud of the work you've done on the internet?
On the internet, on this.
No, I mean by your work experience, you're not proud of it.
Apparently, maybe it was well done, so I've forgotten it. Hopefully. Any more answers or questions or remarks? Anna?
What was the site?
No, I just
Yeah, but what did you know?
asking from him. Maybe he was done his best side
Oh.
by his own.
The world's best.
Actually,
I think there's a
everything he was done was that's not perfect.
I think there is a site, the universe, best site in the universe. Very well written site. But anyways, thank you. I think that's it.